Well, folks, I had a little trouble sleeping last night. By the way, hello everybody. It would appear things are starting to get a little more serious around the world. That's why I decided to put that X tag on today. And we're actually going to leave that on for the duration of a few shows. But yeah, it wasn't anything to do with DLive. I chose to put that on. But the wolves appear to be at the door. And I just hope that everybody out there is ready for the very near future. In fact, we're going to dive into a few things today, and maybe we'll go across something that you haven't thought about. And we'll kind of start there. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think what's coming up is going to be really interesting. But we'll see. Anyway, we're going to get into some things that... yeah, Tim, you're feeling the same way, huh? Going to get into a few things that hopefully everyone's thought about. Just kind of a rehash. And I'll probably get crap for talking about this, but yeah, I don't care. Usually Wednesdays are our product review days. We're going to be shifting that a little bit. We're going to be doing the product reviews on the Ridge Live show. And I don't know, we'll see as we go forward. We may be phasing out the morning show, we'll see. Phasing it out with me anyway. We may have someone that can take my place. But we'll get into that down the road. Nothing right now, so. Anyway, I put together just kind of a quick slideshow for you guys, something to think about. Yeah, me too. Couldn't figure out why I wasn't sleeping at night. I think I know why now. But just a quick slideshow. I think this we're going to try to hit everything that people should know before everything goes dark. If you've been paying attention, which I know you guys have, you know that things aren't looking great. And things are getting hot all over between all the superpowers, which is the scary part. And I don't know, that whole fear of not using nuclear weapons appears to be kind of waning a little bit. Grotness, hello. Thanks for stopping in, sir. I mean, you got Japan threatening China, China threatening Japan, Russia threatening British ships, Russia threatening us. I don't know. Yeah, but Mary, remember, we still control a lot of that internet. And technically, Russia already has. Gotta remember, they transitioned to their own. They got off the World Wide Web. Cuba just recently shut down their own internet. So It's pretty interesting. Yeah, things are just getting a little too out of hand. And I don't know as you have the cool heads in charge anymore. That's the spooky part. So what does it mean for you and me? Well, if you haven't had a preparedness mindset yet, you need to get on it. I know most of you guys in the chat here that we're talking to. Kind of already have that preparedness mindset. If you haven't practiced any of your skills, might be a good idea to start. As far as your ability to make a fire. Yeah, I did see that, Tim. Your ability to put together a shelter, gather water, process water, all that kind of fun stuff. All that stuff that we used to just call living, now that we call, bushcrafting and camping and survivalism, preparedness. We used to just, that's how we lived. And I think we've gotten a little too comfy. Pay attention to all your surroundings. Any changes, no matter how small, may actually be rather significant. Look at the attacks that we've been having on our internet infrastructure. Doesn't affect all of us, so a lot of us aren't even paying attention. But it could. You need to get in the mindset and understand that there are things that you may have to do that are very unlike you. And I think you all understand what that means. You definitely have to put your family first in a situation like we're looking at. And of course, if you don't start now, you'll never get started. So if you've been thinking about it, putting it off, you got to get going. I would not look to although there's some on here that'll argue with me. You don't mean that to rhyme. That's all right. You may want to look towards printed information and gather some of that up. Some of those how-to books, some of the old carpentry books. Yeah, that style of information. If you are finding stuff online, you need to be probably printing that and putting it in a binder. Some of my important stuff that I have, not only do I put it in a binder, but I also laminate it so it has a little better chance of surviving depending on where and what happens. You can pick up a laminator at your big box store for, I don't know, $20, $30 anymore, so it's a good option to have around. Some of the most important things that you can learn. Yeah, books are great resources. The 5 C's of survival. And the only thing I don't like, Foxfire books. If you guys have not looked into Foxfire Chronicles or Foxfire books, I would recommend it. It's a couple of writers that hung out with the what's a good way to put this? The backwood folks of the Appalachian Mountains. And those folks, they know how to do a lot with nothing. But so the 5 C's of survival, what I don't like about the 5 C's is it's a little too basic. So we'll dive into those a little deeper. And we're going to go one by one. Basic first aid. I'm not going to teach you basic first aid. I'm not going to go through it. I'm not going to show you anything. I would recommend that you talk with your local first responders. They can probably point you in the right direction of a local class that they would recommend. But you may not always have the option to call the doctor for the little bumps and bruises and scrapes of life. And those little bumps and bruises and scrapes can become rather serious if not treated correctly. Gardening and food production. That's something that folks just need to know. It's fairly obvious now to a lot of people, just because they're seeing some of the shortages in the grocery stores. You might not always be able to get exactly what you want anymore. And I think that's going to continue to get worse. Afternoon, AG. And self and family defense. Yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory, but that's one of those things that I was saying it might not necessarily be in your characteristic right now, but it's something you need to probably learn. But let's start off with the 5 C's of survival. I don't know why I keep calling it 3. The 5 C's are cutting, the ability to sharpen your tools also. Number 2 is combustion, multiple ways to be able to start a fire. Number 3 is cover or shelter, so your ability to get out of the weather. Number 4 is having some sort of container. Some way to collect and boil water is probably the most important thing, but food prep is pretty important too. But you can do that over an open flame. Boiling water is a little hard to do over an open flame if you just throw it on there. It just doesn't work. And the 5th one is cordage. And learning what to do with it, how to tie knots. There's a lot of different knots out there that people need to know. And they are very specific to what you want them to do. So today we're gonna start off with the first one. Number 1 is cutting. When you think of the ability to cut, it sounds easy. But a lot goes into the ability to cut things, more than one may think. And what I mean by that is as far as angles, blade shape, all that kind of fun stuff. All of that matters. And quite a bit more than a person gives it credit for. For example, if you've ever tried to split wood with a thin axe, it's a little hard to do. Usually 9 times out of 10, that blade gets stuck. Well, why? That blade's not meant for splitting. Yes, I am aware that by now most of you, or probably all of you, have a knife of some sort. But do you have the right knife? And you know how to use it to its most efficiency? Do you know how to maintain the edge? A lot of people I know don't know how to sharpen a knife. Amazes me, but they carry a knife, don't know how to sharpen it. You may be working with a lot of different materials. So is your knife up to all the tasks? Probably not. And is there other options for cutting that you have not thought of? Now, some of this stuff is fairly obvious to a lot of folks, but remember, we're talking to some people out there that may not necessarily think the same way we do. Remember, you're not only cutting meat and vegetables like you do in your kitchen. If your knife is good enough to be used as an axe or a saw, or some sort of carving tool, great. But how does it stack up against tools you can use? Some of the tools that are meant for it. I tend to look at each C as a kit that needs to be built, not just a single item. For cutting, I would recommend four types. First, you need a good fixed blade. No longer than 11 inches. I know some guys out there, especially the guys that carry like a kukri or an Arkansas toothpick. That's a little much. I mean, in reality, all that knife's going to do is get in your way. So here are a few examples that I picked out just quickly to keep in mind, and they range, quite a bit in price. The Gerber Strong Arm is actually, and Gerber has stepped up their game quite a bit. The Gerber Strong Arm is actually a really good knife. I know it looks a lot like the Bear Grylls survival knife that he had out. This one's a little more thought through. It's a full tang instead of a quarter tang. Runs all the way through to that eyelet in the back that you see. The next one is always the tried and true K-bar. Now there's a reason that K-bar has been around for a long time. It's a very useful knife. If you have the money and you can dive deep, an actual bushcrafting knife is pretty good. Usually they have a thicker spine on them. They're meant for processing light lumber, but yet they'll do the job of any normal knife. And then, of course, the old favorite, the Mora. Everybody knows about these knives. I don't have to dive deep. I did pick out a stainless steel one instead of the carbon steel, just because you have that maintenance problem. You may not have the option to towel off your knife all the time and keep it dry so it doesn't rust and all that kind of fun stuff. So those are just a few options. I'm sure you guys can look around, find your own. But keep in mind that's kind of what you're looking for. Now that you have the knife, you need to look at other types of cutting you're going to do. The number one thing you're probably going to be looking at is processing wood, as far as for firewood, shelter building, all that kind of fun stuff. I would recommend a good camp axe and a good handsaw. Have an old World War II K-bar that you take camping. Yep. So I gave you a few options down here, and a camp axe it's a shorter design. You can still wield it with two hands if you have to. Most of the time it's a one-hand axe, and it's kind of the best of both worlds. It's a chopper and it's a splitter, just by the blade design. And Marbles actually makes really good, knives, chisels, and now they're getting into axes. And so far they've been pretty good as far as reviews go. I haven't had a chance to actually grab one myself, but I plan to. And then Fiskars has come out with a new kind of hybrid. You remember the biggest problem that Fiskars had with their knife or their axes was that fiberglass hollow handle would just ring up your arm when you'd hit a fairly solid chunk of wood. They've now since, you can still get that axe if you'd like, but they've now went to this hybrid where it's a fiberglass top and a wood handled bottom, so it has a tendency to dampen that shock a lot better. Now, the biggest thing that you want to look for when you're picking out an axe, and this is why I'm showing you these online but I wouldn't recommend buying them online. And there's a reason. You need to pay attention to a few things when you're buying an axe. And most of it comes down to the handle. When you're looking at that handle, have a plan and a backup plan and a backup plan for the backup plan. Yep, exactly. So when you're looking at that handle, you want to look at the very butt end of it and see which way the grains are running in that handle. If they're running in line with the axe head, meaning they're running like so, it's great. That axe will actually last you a long time and do very well for you. If they're a slight 45, it's not bad. I mean, I would still pick it up, but I would be a little concerned about it. Now, you see some of them that are running horizontal to the axe head. The problem that you have with that is when you swing hard and you sink that head, there's a fairly decent chance that it's going to snap off right at the head. And that's because your strength in lumber is when it's in a vertical grain. So vertical to whatever shock it's taking. Okay? When you tip it like this, it's easily split and cracked away. So take a look at those handles, make sure you're picking out the right one. And look all the way through that, from the butt end all the way up to make sure that grain doesn't twist on you or anything like that. Now, that being said, you got a knife and you got an axe. Nothing beats a good handsaw. As far as when you start processing a lot of wood, swinging an axe and chopping down a tree, sure, okay, have at it. I would much rather take one of these silky saws or even that Corona and use that, just because it's a lot more efficient in a straight line cut, cross grain, than an axe. They're lightweight, they're easy to carry. I wouldn't do anything above the large tooth. When you get into the extra large tooth, it's a little too aggressive. And of course, if you go down to like the small tooth or even a medium tooth, they have a tendency to fill up when you're cutting greenwood, meaning the teeth actually fill full of sawdust and kind of takes away from the effectiveness of the saw. So, and actually that Corona actually has really good reviews on it so far. And it's a much cheaper option than the Silky. I do like my Silky saws, but I can understand if someone wanted to go with that Corona. And if you pick these up, I would pick up a few extra blades too. You're not adding that much weight to your pack. And it's just nice to have, because there's really no good way to fix these blades once they either dull or you bend a tooth or something like that. So, any questions so far on or any thoughts, any other recommendations you guys would make? Remember, we are a bit of a community here. We try to listen all the way across the board. I do have an old bow saw. Well, I say old bow saw. It's an old type bow saw. It's a fairly new saw, but I'm not a huge fan. I cannot cut a straight line with that bow saw. I don't know why. I mean, you can cut a straight line with it, but the problem is as you tip your hand back and forth. Yeah, you like a good bow saw? See, now I should ask you, how in the hell do you cut a straight line with those? I mean, I've tried. I end up walking that thing back and forth all over the place trying to get it straightened out, but I know I'm doing something wrong. Let's put it that way. But a bow saw, yeah, I have a saw that's made in Switzerland. That's a foldable backpack saw that's really lightweight, pretty effective. Oh, you're talking like those cable saws? They're AG. I've looked into those. I don't know. You have to make damn good and sure that you're getting a good quality one. Otherwise, the first time that cable sticks, you just pull it apart. But I have seen some high quality ones out there, and they do work well for, smaller fiber. I don't know if I'd take after anything that's over like 2.5 inches in diameter, maybe. But I know there's guys out there that have done much larger with them. I don't know. But yeah, as far as most new and newer bones. See, this is what I'm running into. It just, I don't know if it doesn't keep the blade tight enough. I don't know. Yeah, as far as for small jobs, those cable saws are excellent. But yeah, I would, I don't know, definitely need to look at a different option for a bow saw, because I can see where those come in handy. Now, let's talk about maintaining your cutting edge. How many folks out there know how to put an edge on? Yeah, it's probably a quality issue. Oh. Hey, Sarge. How's it going? If you're going to be using your cutting tools, you will eventually dull them. I mean, that's the nature of the beast. And at times, when I say dull, there's times where you may fold the edge completely over. So, yeah. You will need a way to sharpen them. Other than, take it to your local knife sharpening guy, or firing up your Magic Chef grinder that, oh God, I hate those things. Over the years, I've gotten to know a lot of people that carry a knife and don't necessarily know how to sharpen a knife or an axe for that matter. So what good does it really do you? I mean, you got a knife in your pocket. Awesome. It's going to stay sharp for about maybe 3 days. Maybe. And that's if you're moderately using it. If you're going into some heavy use stuff, you're going to need to sharpen it every day. So do you have the ability? And do you have the supplies? You need to know how to mill an edge. And when you really get into looking at knife making or knife sharpening, it's amazing how many different edges are out there. You have a double bevel, you have a bevel, you have a convex, you have a Scandi, you have concave. I mean, there's just, and every one of them sharpens differently. So you kind of got to know, first off, what kind of blade you're looking at on your knife. Secondly, how to hold it, where to hold it. Hello, Catherine. How are you? Yeah, the Lansky. That's funny because that's it's coming up here shortly. Grot, I'm glad to see you. Hopefully everything's going well for you over there. Anyway, yeah, as far as maintaining your knife edge, your axes, actually any of your digging tools, so your shovels, stuff like that, make sure you know how to put an edge back on them. Few tools I would recommend you having in your arsenal as far as for milling and sharpening. The Lansky sharpening pucks, these are great to have on you when you're in the woods with your axe. They are water lubricated. You can oil lubricate them. They don't hold up as well. The problem I run into, and if you notice, I look at everything's water. because I can find water. I can't make oil very well. In a pinch, you can sharpen on the edge of the car window. I have done that before out elk hunting. When you lose your edge, roll your window down, and that rounded part of your side windows really makes a nice, I would say, a steel. Yeah, it won't necessarily put an edge back on, but it'll straighten your edge. Yeah, the Lansky stones, the pucks, are excellent for quick touch-ups on an axe. You can mill an axe down with them if you really want to burn through a stone. The next one I have is just a generic water stones. So that black stone that you see on top, that's a stone flattener. So as you're sharpening, naturally stones get that kind of bellow in them. And that stone is more aggressive than anything else in the set. So what you do is you lay that on top and just start kind of grinding slowly back and forth until you get that stone perfectly flat again, which is fairly important for sharpening knives, depending on how, serious you want to get at it. The next thing, that Crescent Nicholson, that is an excellent file for the money. No fanciness to it. It doesn't have a soft grip handle or all this kind of fun stuff. It's just a good all-around file. And that you're going to use you can use it in a couple of scenarios. Let's say you break your knife point off, and you got to put a point back on it. You may not have the option to run to your grinder anymore, so getting that set up, hopefully in a vise somewhere, but if not, you can do it in your hand. It's much, much, much harder, but that will help you put a point back on your knife. That'll also mill an axe down, because an axe kind of has that natural look like this, but it's actually more like so. And what that file will do is, as you start to come into that 45-degree edge, it's going to back that edge back up. So it's going to put that 45 back on. And then, of course, you have the Lansky, which I'm guessing this is almost what Grot was talking about. The double diamond paddle. What I like about this is it's foldable. So this handle actually folds in and covers up those diamond sharpening stones. And if you haven't worked with diamond, you need to be very careful, because those diamond pads, although they feel nice and not near as coarse as you think they are, they cut away steel quickly. So you can really go too far sometimes with a diamond stone. So just be careful. Yeah, all the old files you can. I'll tell you what, if you know anybody that is a blacksmith, they'll tell you that you never pass up an old bucket of files somewhere on a farm auction or something like that. Or farrier files. Oh, yeah. It's hard to find something that makes a better knife than a farrier file, if you're wanting to just mess around. I mean, they're already kind of tool steel. They're a high carbon steel. Excellent for that. And a lot of times, a lot of people forget that a file needs a cleaning, or a file card, for cleaning out the shavings, or the filings, I guess, in this case. A lot of people think, oh, yeah, this file's done. No. Just get one of those cheapo little file cards. They're usually a thin wood card, about yay thick, that has a bunch of bent little wires on there. And all that does is dig down in those files and flick out the stuff that's bound up behind the teeth. So and it's amazing how long you can make a file last with a good file card. Yeah. We'll be probably in the next week or two stepping over exactly how I use these, because I have just about all of these in my arsenal already. And we may look at an inexpensive axe option. That's either from, I know, you guys are going to hate me again, either going to be from Walmart or Harbor Freight. I've actually heard really good things about Harbor Freight's little camp axe, so it might be that one. We'll see. But so far, let's see, we have a knife, we have a good camp axe, and we have a good saw, and a way to put an edge back on them. Now, to throw a little kink in the system here, has anyone looked at the cold steel shovel? If you've ever watched the show Alone, Zachary Fowler made it really popular. If you haven't had a chance to play with those, I would look into that. It's a pretty nice little all-around shovel. It's kind of a trenching tool almost, or an old trench shovel. But it has a very, very sharp edge on it. AG, have you played around with one, or do you have one? Or I have one in my sets. And I've used it, I can think of a few times out, like setting up game cams. A lot of times you got to get some branches out of the way and stuff like that. I don't know why. Oh, you take it camping, all right. I don't know why, but it always seems like I forget the axe or the tree saw when I'm out there. And you know as well as I do, if you set up those game cams, any branch or anything in front of it, you just get a ton of pictures of a branch because the wind blew and it moved around a little bit in the middle of the night and the camera picks it up. So it takes a picture and it takes another one and another one, another one. There's been times I've went back to my game cams and they have, the old folding army shell. Okay. I do like those. The cold steel shovel is more like the World War II or World War I trench shovel. The folding ones are good. The only thing I don't like about them is they have a few fail points, or right where those hinge points are. But other than that, no, they're good. If all you're going to be doing is digging and picking, good shovel. And I would definitely look at the Army surplus shovels. I wouldn't look at like the Ozark Trail knockoffs and stuff like that. They use an aluminum collar to tighten them up, and that aluminum collar just slowly has a tendency to stretch, and then pretty quick, doesn't work no more. But I like anything I can put a handle back on, so that's why I look to the solid handles and the wood handles. Even if I got to use cheap pine, I can still make it work for a little while. But yeah, the folding shovels, they're great for packing. And like I said, if you get the actual Army surplus ones, they're usually much stronger than what you can buy over the counter. But yeah, I hate having to think this way. I'm not a fan. I would enjoy it if all this was a camping trip. But I'm starting to become concerned that it's going to be a little more than just a camping trip. And we are not in any position to stand at the top of Empire State Building pounding our chest. I don't know. Maybe we are. Maybe all this is just a play. I don't know. Sure doesn't look good, though. And I don't think we're necessarily ready to fight a war on multiple fronts. But that's sure is what it looks like is coming. I don't know. It's gonna suck. Don't get me wrong. I'm not looking forward to this. Yeah. It is way better to be prepared, even, prepare for the worst and hope for the best. That's kind of my strategy. But I don't know. Don't have warm fuzzies, let's put it that way. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I agree, Tim. Unfortunately. And that... Yeah. Hey, Uncle Krusty, how's it going? You made it in. Yeah, I don't know. Don't have the warm fuzzies, let's put it that way. I'm a little concerned. And it's hard to... I don't know. It's hard to figure out day to day when in the back of your mind you're thinking, is it really going to make too damn difference? Is anybody going to give two shits when it comes right down to it? And I don't know. I've always been a fan of being able to do things myself and figuring out how to do more with less. But that's back when we had fun doing it. I don't know if it's going to be so fun anymore. But I guess we'll see. Well, I did warn you guys in the title. I was feeling a little dark today. I don't know. I'm with you, Tim. I really hate what's coming down the pike, too, but... Yeah, AG. I understand that, too. I'm kind of getting to the point where it's... just get it over with. If it's going to do it, let's go. If it's not, hell with it, let's move on. I don't know. Grot, if you're still out there, I'm sure I sound like some of them other crazy sumbitches you've heard. So I apologize. Catherine, this probably got a little darker than you were hoping. But I'm glad you guys are here. Uncle Krusty, you already know, so. And Tim, I know Tim's cheating. Tim has, he's already grown up this way, so. Not a big deal, right? But nope. But all I can ask you guys to do is make sure you're educating yourself and educating the people around you. And I'm not talking about trying to convince people to believe what we believe or change their minds or anything like that. I think we've gone beyond that point now. We've missed every exit. Now it's the people that you've already talked to, the people that are like-minded. Let's get them educated. Let's get out in the woods and do a little practicing. I'm not talking about there you go. Yeah, Berkey, those are man, you spend some money, but those are nice water filtration systems. And hopefully you got yourself a few extra filters. One nice thing though is the filters are washable, so they plug up with sediment or sand. You can back flush them and wash them off. That's kind of nice. Of course, that's the difference between a stone filter and a string filter. But I don't know. I don't know. You know, the worst part about this, and I never used to really, I'll be honest, I never used to give two shits. I keep forgetting my X tags on. I never used to give a fuck. Never even crossed my mind. There you go. And then I had a little boy that, let's face it, he looks to me for everything right now. He's copying Dad to a T. And even if it doesn't happen while I'm alive, it's a pretty damn good chance it's going to happen while he's alive. And all I can hope is that I pass enough stuff on to him. And then pray to God he never uses it. Yeah. Anyway. So no review on the hammock today. We'll be doing that tonight. Yeah. I think the morning shows are going to take a little bit of a shift. We're going to be going down the rabbit holes on some of this stuff. As far as and I'm not talking on the political side. At this point I could give two shits. There ain't no fixing it, so move on. So now we're going to be trying to educate. Yep. Me too, Grot. And if you guys haven't, I don't even know if it's still live on the internet, but the other thing I would do for your kids is download that 1776 report, print the damn thing off, laminate it, put it in a file somewhere. Because at some point in time, you might not be around to correct the history they're being taught. Anywho. Well, that was fun, wasn't it? Old hand tools, yep. Yeah, I got myself the whole, just about the whole set of Stanley planes. From everything from the number 3 on up. And the old, what the heck do they call those drills? Anyway, the old hand crank drills and bits. I got, 3 sets of the bits. Hand chisels coming out my wazoo. Hand saws. Tools are going to be important. Now, the problem that you run into is, like for me, if things do pop off, I currently live in town. We have some ground out of town that we're going to head to. But it's that move that makes it difficult. Got to figure out what you're going to take. And what's going to be important and what's going to hopefully be there when you get back. Probably nothing, I'm going to guess. And you have to ask yourself if it's going to be worth the move, as far as heading back to the place you abandoned. So I'm looking at possibly moving a lot of that stuff out of my in-town location out to my out-of-town location. I don't need it here. I still have power here. I'm not going to break out a hand crank drill when I got, 5 cordless drills I can use. But the situation may arise where being able to bore a hole in a board and put a spike in to make your joinery going to become kind of important. And cutting dovetails. We look at dovetails now in like dressers and stuff like that, and we think, oh, that's pretty. That's a nice design. Shaving horse and draw knife. There you go. I got the draw knives. I don't have a shaving horse. Should look into either buying or building one. For those of you that don't know what a shaving horse is, it's a sawhorse that you set upon, and there's a clamping mechanism that you run with your foot to clamp in the material that you're working on, and it makes it nice for draw knife and planing. All of that kind of comes in handy. It's basically your old school third hand. But yeah, I would. All of this stuff, guys, is stuff that we need to be looking up, printing out, having it on hand. I'm not saying you have to build one right now, but it's good to have the information on how to build one. And yeah. Well, there's a few of them on here there, Grot. Yeah. Yeah, being able to specialize in one thing is going to be rather important. And you know what? Good Lord, guys. Guys, gals, all of us. Learn how to do a little blacksmithing. You don't have to be a pro at it, but learn how to take a piece of steel and bend it into a ring. There could come a point in time where you need a ring, and you're not going to run to the hardware store to get it. You can build a really inexpensive forage for cheap right now. Yeah, take a little money each week. You know, hell, even $20. You'd be surprised, $20 every week, how far you can go with your preps. And for some of the bigger stuff, just hold on to it for a little while, let it build up, and then buy your bigger stuff with it. You may have to escalate that a little bit, but for right now, learn how to make fish hooks. There you go. You ever seen those gill hooks? They're more of a sharpened stick, technically, that when you set the hook, it wedges in their mouth, pushes out the gill plates, kind of sticks it in there. It's not the most effective way to catch fish, but it does work. But what do you guys think? Are you wanting to dive down this and maybe put some kits together on TV? I keep forgetting we're not on TV. Man, I'm old school. Have some videos of assembling some kits, packing bags, what to have in your bag, all that kind of fun stuff. And of course, it's not, it's just my opinion. I really want you guys to do exactly what you're doing today. Add in your comments, your thoughts, your ideas, because it is something that it's going to take all of us to, unfortunately, I think it's going to take all of us to get through this, and it's not going to be easy. So it takes folks just like you that are willing to step up. I know a lot of us out there that, we're not exactly huge fans of other people, let's say. Okay. I mean, we're not huge fans of other people, but we do have a tendency to, when it really comes down to it, we do tend to give a shit. And we'll help when we can. Not necessarily to our detriment, but we'll help when we can. And I think, like Grout said, finding some folks that are specialized in certain aspects is going to be fairly important for you guys out in your neck of the woods, because I would love to bring you all to Montana and know that we have the best and brightest, but I know that's not going to happen. And I don't blame you. But yeah, we'll touch on, packing. I know a lot of people do the whole, I'm going to backpack out, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Yeah, I think we're going to go a little more in depth. I think we're going to dive into how to pack a truck. Because trust me, if I can, if my truck is still running, I'm going to take my truck to get out here more than I'm going to take my feet. So, but we'll go all the way down from, what I usually tend to do is I pack certain things in the truck. In the truck is usually a couple of sets of backpacks. Yeah. Well, and see, my thing is I don't know. When some people think about bugging out, they go into that whole, oh yeah, I'm just going to run off in the woods and survive. Probably not. When I bug out, I'm traveling, let's say. I have certain locations that I've set up that I have the ability to go to. And some of those are going to be getting worked on a little heavier in the very near future. And it's good to have multiple locations you can travel to. I know, Krusty, I'd love to stay where I am too, but I'm a little too close. Right off a major highway, surrounded by people. None of this I like. So when you say you got a bike trailer, you talking like a small motorcycle trailer or one of those teardrop style ones that you run behind a bike? Oh, okay. Yeah, but it sounded like you had neighbors fairly close to you. Hopefully they're neighbors that you get along with. Because I think, like everybody was talking about, we need to get our generators up and running, and we need to make sure that we have fuel. We need all this. When it's dead quiet because there's not the hum of machinery going on anywhere, you fire up a generator, people will hear that running a quarter mile away, and they're going to come looking. So I don't know if that's the best idea or if that's the best plan for long sustainability. If every night when it gets dark and your house is the only one that's lit up, not a good thing. Yeah, I don't want to depend on a generator either. That's why a lot of my food preps don't require refrigeration. And it's getting on about that time again that canning is going to be kicking off here pretty quick. So we'll have some of those videos. I need to get out and play with that freeze dryer a little more. Show you guys some of that. All the fun. But next show we're going to dive into probably the next C, which, let's see here. That was combustion. Great. Canning in cooler weather, thank God. Yeah. But yeah, our next one up is combustion, and I gotta watch how I do that one because right now it's not so good here. We had some rain yesterday finally, but not enough. Not nearly enough. But yeah. So that'll be our next skill we're jumping down as what I pack for starting fires. And I'll give you guys a hint. You gotta have more than one way to start a fire. Just saying. So I guess we've probably had enough doom and gloom for today. And we can continue to talk in the chat about it, but we're going to get some music fired up. But before I do that, I need to say goodbye to YouTube. See you, folks. Facebook,